understand how wealth is created. I like to think if if I lost all my money and you dropped me on a random street in any English-speaking country within 5 or 10 years, I would be wealthy again because it's just a skill set I've developed that anyone can develop. It's not really about hard work. You can work in a restaurant 80 hours a week and you are not going to get rich. Getting rich is about knowing what to do, who to do it with, and when to do it. It's much more about understanding than purely hard work. Yes, hard work matters, and you can skimp on it, but it had to be directed in the right way. If you don't know yet what you should work on, the most important thing is to figure out. You should not grind a lot of hard work until you figure out what you should be working on. I came up with the principles in my Twistorm below for myself when I was really young. Around 13 or 14, I've been carrying them in my head for 30 years, and I've been living them over time, sadly or fortunately. The thing I got really good at was looking at business and figuring out the point of maximum leverage to actually create wealth and capture some that created wealth. This is exactly what I did my famous twist-storm about. Of course, every one of these twists can be extrapolated into an hour's worth of conversation. The twist-storm below is a good starting point. The twist-storm tries to be information-dense, very concise, high-impact, and timeless. It has all the information and the principles. So if you absorb this and you work hard over 10 years, you'll get what you want. How to get rich without getting lucky. Seek wealth, not money or status. Wealth is having assets that earn while you sleep. Money is how we transfer time and wealth. Status is your place in the social hierarchy. Understand ethical wealth creation is possible. If you secretly despise wealth, it will elude you. Ignore people playing status games. They gain status by attacking people playing wealth creation games. If you're not going to get rich renting out your time, you must own equity, a piece of business, to gain your financial freedom. You'll get rich by giving society what it wants but doesn't yet know how to get at scale. Pick an industry where you can play long-term games with long-term people. The internet has massively broadened the possible space of careers. Most people haven't figured this out yet. Play iterated games. All the returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, or knowledge, come from compound interest. Pick business partners with high intelligence, energy, and above all, integrity. Don't partner with cynics or pessimists. Their beliefs are self-fulfilling. Learn to sell, learn to build. If you can do both, you'll be unstoppable. Arm yourself with specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. Specific knowledge is knowledge you cannot be trained for. If society can train you, it can train someone else and replace you. Specific knowledge is found by pursuing your genuine curiosity and passion rather than whatever is hot right now. Building specific knowledge will feel like play to you, but will look like work to others. When specific knowledge is taught, it's through apprenticeships, not schools. Specific knowledge is often highly technical or creative. It cannot be outsourced or automated. Embrace accountability and take business risks under your own name. Society will reward you with responsibility, equity, and leverage. Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I will move the earth. Archimedes. Fortunes require leverage. Business leverage comes from capital, people, and products, with no marginal cost of replication, code, and media. Capital means money. To raise money, apply your specific knowledge with accountability and show resorting good judgment. Labor means people working for you. It's the oldest and most fought-over form of leverage. Labor leverage will impress your parents, but don't waste your life chasing it. Capital and labor are permission to leverage. Everyone is chasing capital, but someone has to give it to you. Everyone is trying to lead, but someone has to follow you. Code and media are permissionless leverage. They are the leverage behind the newly rich. You can create software and media that works for you while you sleep. An army of robots is freely available. It's just packed in data centers for heat and space efficiency. Use it. If you can't code, write books and blogs, record videos and podcasts. Leverage is force multiplier for your judgment. Judgment requires experience but can be built faster and by learning foundational skills. There is no skill called business. Avoid business magazines and business classes. Study microeconomics, game theory, psychology, persuasion, ethics, mathematics, and computer. Reading is faster than listening. Doing is faster than watching. You should be too busy to do coffee while still keeping an uncluttered calendar. Set and enforce an aspirational personal hourly rate. If fixing a problem will save less than your hourly rate, ignore it. If outsourcing a task will cost less than your hourly rate, outsource it. Work as hard as you can, even though who you work with and what you work on are more important than how hard you work. Become the best in the world at what you do. Keep redefining what you do until this is true. There are no get-rich-quick schemes. Those are just someone else getting rich off you. Apply specific knowledge with leverage, and eventually you will get what you deserve. When you are finally wealthy, you will realize it wasn't what you were seeking in the first place. But that is for another day. Summary: productize yourself. Your summary says productize yourself. What does that mean? Productize and yourself. Yourself has uniqueness. Productize has leverage. Yourself has accountability. Productize and specific knowledge. Yourself also has specific knowledge in there. So all of these pieces, you can combine them into these two words. If you are looking towards your long-term goal of getting wealthy, you should ask yourself, is this authentic to me? Is it myself that I'm projecting? And then, am I productizing it? Am I scaling it? Am I scaling with labor or with capital or with code or with media? So it's very heady, symbolic. This is hard. This is why I say it takes decades. I'm not saying it takes decades to execute, but the better part of a decade may be figuring out what you can uniquely provide. What's the difference between wealth and money? Money is how we transfer wealth. Money is social credit. It's our ability to have credit and debit of other people's time. If you do my job right, if I create value for society, society says, oh, thank you. We owe you something in the future for the work you did in the past. Here's a little I owe you. Let's call that money. Wealth is a thing you want. Wealth is assets that earn while you sleep. Wealth is a factory, the robots cracking out things. Wealth is a computer program that's running at night serving other customers. Wealth is even money in a bank that is being reinvested into other assets and into other businesses. Even a house can be a form of wealth because if you can rent it out, although that's probably a lower productivity use of land than other commercial enterprise. So, my definition of wealth is much more business and assets that can earn while you sleep. Technology democratizes consumption, but consolidates production. The best person in the world at anything gets to do it for everyone. Society will pay you for creating things you want, but society doesn't yet know how to create those things. Because if it did, they wouldn't need you. Then they would already be stepped out. Almost everything in your house, in your workplace, and on the street used to be technology at one point in time. There was a time when oil was technology that made Jerry Rockefeller rich. There was a time when cars were technology that made Henry Ford rich. So technology is set of things is a set of things, as Alan Key said, that don't quite work yet. Correction, Danny Hills. Once something works, it's no longer technology. Society always wants new things. And if you want to be wealthy, you want to figure out which one of those things you can provide for society that it doesn't yet know how to get but it will want, and providing is natural to you within your skill set and within your capabilities. Then you have to figure out how to scale it because if you only build one, that's not enough. You've got to build thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of them so everybody can have one. Steve Jobs and his team, of course, figured out society would want smartphones, a computer in the pocket that had all the phone capability times 100 and was easy to use. So they figured out how to build it, and then they figured out how to scale it. Find and build specific knowledge. Sales skills are a form of specific knowledge. There's such a thing as a Rancho in sales. You run into them all the time in startups and venture capital. When you meet someone who is a Rancho at sales, you just know they are, they are amazing. They are really good at what they do. That is a form of specific knowledge. Obviously, they learned somewhere, but they didn't learn it in a classroom setting. They learned probably in their childhood in the schoolyard, or they learned negotiating with their parents. Maybe some is genetic components in the DNA. But you can improve sales skills. You can read Robert Cialdini. You can go to sales training seminar. You can do door-to-door sales. It's brutal, but will train you very quickly. You can definitely improve your sales skills. Specific knowledge cannot be taught, but it can be learned. When I talk about specific knowledge, I mean figure out what you were doing as a kid or teenager almost effortlessly. Something you didn't even consider a skill, but people around you noticed. Your mother, your best friend growing up would know. Examples of what your specific knowledge could be: sales skills, music talents, with the ability to pick up any instrument, an obsessive personality. You dive into things and remember them quickly. Love for science fiction. You are into reading sci-fi, which means you absorb a lot of knowledge very quickly. Playing a lot of games. You understand games theory pretty well. Gossiping. Dig into your friend network. You might make you that might make you into a very interesting journalist. The specific knowledge is sort of this weird combination of unique traits from your DNA, your unique upbringing, and your response to it. It's almost baked into your personality and your identity. Then you can hone it. No one can compete with you on being you. Most of life is a search for who and what leads you the most. For example, I love to read and I love technology. I learned very quickly and I got bored fast. If I had gone into a profession where I was required to tunnel down for 20 years into the same topic, it wouldn't have worked. I'm in venture investing, which requires me to come up to speed very, very quickly on new technologies, and I'm rewarded for getting bored because new technologies come along. It matches up pretty well with my specific knowledge and skill set. I wanted to be a scientist. That is where a lot of my moral hierarchy comes from. I view scientists as being at the top of the production chain for humanity. The group of scientists who have made real breakthroughs and contributions probably added more to human society, I think, than any single other class of human beings. Not to take away anything from art or politics or engineering or business, but without science, we'd still be scrabbling in the dirt, fighting with sticks and trying to start fires. Society, business, money, are downstream of technology, which is itself downstream of science. Science applied is the engine of humanity. Corollary: applied science are the most powerful people in the world. This will be more obvious in the coming year. Coronary. 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 My whole value system was built around scientists, and I wanted to be a great scientist. But when I actually look back and what I was uniquely good at and what I end up spending my time doing, it was more around making money, tinkering with technology, and selling people on things, explaining things, and talking to people. I have some sales skills, which is a form of specific knowledge. I have some analytical skills on how to make money, and I have this ability to absorb data, obsess about it, and to break it down. That is a specific skill that I have. I also have tinkering with tech. I also love tinkering with technology, and all of this stuff feels like play to me, but it looks like work to others. There are other people to whom these things would be hard, and they say, well, how do I get good at being pithy and selling ideas? Well, if you are not already good at it, or if you are not really into it, maybe it's not your thing. Focus on the thing that you are really into. The first person to actually point out my real specific knowledge was my mother. She did it as an aside, talking from the kitchen, and she said it when I was 15 or 16 years old. I was telling a friend of mine that I want to be an astrophysicist, and she said, "No, you're going to go into business." I was like, "What? My mom's telling me I'm going to be in business. I'm going to be an astrophysicist." Mom doesn't know she's talking about, but mom knew exactly what she's talking about. Specific knowledge is found much more by pursuing your innate talent, your genuine curiosity, and your passion. It's not by going to school for whatever is the hottest job. It's not by going to whatever field investors say is the hottest. There often specific knowledge is at the edge of knowledge. It's also stuff that's only now being figured out or is really hard to figure out. If you are not 100% into it, somebody else who is 100% into it will outperform you. And they won't just outperform you by a little bit, they will outperform you by a lot. Because now we are operating the domain of ideas. Compounding interest rarely applies, and the leverage rarely applies. The internet has massively broadened the possible space of career. Most people haven't figured this out yet. You can go on the internet and you can find your audience and you can build a business and create a product and build wealth and make people happy just uniquely expressing yourself through the internet. The internet enables any niche interest, as long as you are the best person at it to scale out. And the great news is because every human is different, everyone is the best at something, being themselves. Another trait I had this that is worth well-being but didn't go into how to get rich twist on was very simple. Escape competition through authenticity. Basically, when you are competing with people, it's because you are copying them. It's because you are trying to do the same thing, but every human is different. Don't copy. If you are fundamentally building and marketing something that that is the extension of who you are, no one can compete with you on that. Who's going to compete with Joe Rogan or Scott Adams? It's impossible. Is somebody else going to come along and write a better Dilbert? No. Is someone going to compete with Bill Watterson or create a better Calvin and Hobbes? No. They are being authentic. The best jobs are neither degrade nor degrade. They are creative expressions of continuous learners in the free market. The most important skill of getting rich is becoming a perpetual learner. You have to know how to learn anything you want to learn. The old model of making money is going to school for 4 years, getting your degree, and working as a professional for 30 years. But things change fast now. Now you have to come up to speed on a new profession within 9 months, and it's obsolete 4 years later. But within those 3 productive years, you can get very wealthy. It's much more important today to be able to become an expert in a brand new field in 9 to 12 months than to have started the right thing a long time ago. You really care about having started the foundations, so you're not scared of any book. If you go to the library and there's a book you cannot understand, you have to dig down and see what's the foundation required for me to learn this. Foundations are super important. Basic arithmetic and numeracy are way more important in life than doing calculus. Similarly, being able to convey yourself simply use ordinary English words is far more important than being able to write poetry, having an extensive vocabulary, or speaking 7 different foreign languages. Knowing how to be persuasive when speaking is far more important than being an expert digital marketer or click optimizer. Foundations are key. It's much better to be at 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 on foundations than to try to get super deep into things. You do need to be deep in something because otherwise you will be mile wide and an inch deep and you won't get what you want out of life. You can only achieve mastery in one or two things. It's usually things you are obsessed about. Play long-term games with long-term people. You said other returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, or knowledge, come from compound interest. How does one know if they are not earning compound interest? Compound interest is a very powerful concept. Compound interest applies to more than just compounding capital. Compounding capital is just the beginning. Compounding in business relationships is very important. Look at some of the top roles in society, like why someone is a CEO of a public company or managing billions of dollars. It's because people trust them. They are trusted because the relationship they've built and the work they've done has compounded. They've stuck with the business and shown themselves in a visible and accountable way to be high integrity people. Compound interest also happens in your reputation. If you have a sterling reputation and you keep building it for decades upon decades, people will notice. Your reputation will literally end up being thousands or tens of thousands of times more valuable than somebody else who was very talented but is not keeping the compound interest in reputation going. This is also true when you are working with individual people. If you have worked with somebody for 5 or 10 years and you still enjoy working with them, obviously you trust them and the little foibles are gone. All the normal negotiations in business relationships can work very simply because you trust each other. You know it will work out. For example, there's another angel in Silicon Valley named Elad Gil who I like to do deals with. I love working with Elad because I know when the deal is being done, he will bend over backwards to give me extra. He will always round up in my favor if there's extra dollar being delivered here or there. If there's some cost to pay, he will pay it out of his own pocket. and he won't even mention it to me because he goes so far out of his way to treat me so well. I send him every deal I have. I try to include him in everything. Then I go out of my way and try and pay for him. Compounding in those relationships is very valuable. Intentions don't matter, actions do. That's why being ethical is hard. When you find the right thing to do, when you find the right people to work with, invest deeply. Sticking with it for decades is really how you make the big returns in your relationship and in your money. So compounding interest is very important. 99% of the effort is wasted. Obviously, nothing is ever completely wasted because it's all a learning moment. You can learn from anything, but for example, when you go back to school, 99% of terms paper you did, books you read, exercise you did, things you learned, they don't really apply. You might have read geography and history you never reused. You might have started a language you don't speak anymore. You might have started a branch of mathematics you completely forgot. Of course, these are learning experiences. You did learn. You learned the value of hard work. You might have learned some things that went deep into your psyche and become a piece of what you are doing now. But at least when you come to the goal-oriented life, only about 1% of the efforts you made paid off. Another example is all the people you dated until you met your husband or wife. It was wasted time in the goal sense, not wasted in the exponential sense, not wasted in the learning sense, but definitely wasted in the goal sense. The reason I say this is because it's not to make some glib comments about how 99% of your life is wasted and only 1% is useful. I say this because you should be very thoughtful and realize in most things, relationships, work, even in learning, what you are trying to do is find the thing you are go all in on to learn compound interest. When you are dating, the instant you know this relationship is not going to be the one that leads to marriage, you should probably move on. When you are starting something like a geography or history class, and you realize you are never going to use the information, drop the class. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your brain energy. I'm not saying don't do the 99% because it's very hard to identify what the 1% is. What I'm saying is when you find the 1% of your discipline, which will not be wasted, which you will be able to invest in for the rest of your life and has meaning to you, go all in and forget about the rest. Intentions don't matter, actions do. Take on accountability, embrace accountability, and take business risks under your own name. Society will reward you with responsibility, equity, and leverage. To get rich, you need leverage. Leverage comes in labor, comes in capital, or it can come through code or media. But most of this, like labor and capital, people have to give to you. For labor, somebody had to follow you. For capital, somebody had to give you money, assets to manage, or machines. So to get these things, you have to build credibility, and you have to do it under your own name as much as possible, which is risky. So accountability is a double-edged thing. It allows you to take credit when things go well and to bear the brunt of the failure when things go badly. Clear accountability is important. Without accountability, you don't have incentives. Without accountability, you can't build credibility. But you take risks. You risk failure. You risk humiliation. You risk failure under your own name. Luckily, in modern society, there's no more debtor's prison, and people aren't imprisoned or executed for losing other people's money. But we are still socially hardwired to not fail in public under our own names. The people who have the ability to fail in public under their own names actually gain a lot of power. I will give a personal anecdote. Up until about 2013, 2014, my public persona was entirely around startups and investing. Only around 2014, 2015 did I start talking about philosophy and the psychological things and the broader things. I made it made me a little nervous because I was doing it under my own name. There were definitely people in the industry who sent me message through the back channel like, "What are you doing? You are ending your career. This is stupid." I kind of just went with it. I took a risk. Same with crypto. Early on, I took a risk. But when you put your name out there, you take a risk with certain things. You also get to reap the rewards. You get the benefits. In the old days, the captain was expected to go down with the ship. If the ship was sinking, then literally the last person to get up was the captain. Accountability does come with real risk, but we are talking about business context. The risk here you would probably be the last one to get your capital back out. You'd be the last one to get paid for your time. The time that you put in, the capital you put into the company, those are at risk. Realize that in modern society, the downside risk is not that large. Even personal bankruptcy can wipe the debts clean in good ecosystems. I'm most familiar with Silicon Valley, but generally, people will forgive failures as long as you were honest and made a high integrity effort. There's no really that much to fear in terms of failure, and so people should take on a lot more accountability than they do. Build or buy equity in a business. If you don't own a piece of business, you don't have a path towards financial freedom. Why is owning equity in a business important to becoming rich? It's ownership versus work. Wage work. If you are paid for renting out your time, even lawyers and doctors, you can make some money, but you are not going to make the money that gives you financial freedom. You are not going to have passive income with a business is earning for you while you are asleep, while you are on vacation. This is probably one of the most important points. People seem to think you can create wealth making money through work is probably not going to work. There are many reasons for that. Without ownership, your inputs are very closely tied to your output. In almost any salary job, even one paying a lot per hour, like a lawyer or a doctor, you are still putting the hours and every hour you get paid. Without ownership, when you are sleeping. You are not earning when you are retired. You are not earning when you are on vacation. You are not earning, and you can't earn non-linearly. If you look at even doctors who get rich, like really rich, it's because they open a business, they open a private practice. The private practice builds a brand, and the brand attracts people, or they build some kind of medical device, a procedure, or a process with an intellectual property. Essentially, you are working for somebody else, and that person is taking the risk and has accountability, the intellectual property, and the brand. You are not going to pay you. They are not going to pay you enough. They are going to pay you the bare minimum they have to get you to do the job. That can be high bare minimum, but it's still not going to be true wealth where you are retired but still earning. Owning equity in a company basically means you own the upside. When you own that, you own guaranteed revenue stream and you own the downside. You won't own equity if you don't own equity in a business. Your odds of making money are very slim. You have to work up to the point where you can own equity in a business. You could own equity as a small shareholder where you bought stock. You could also own it as an owner where you start the company. Ownership is really important. Everybody who really makes money at some point owns a piece of product, a business, or some IP. That can be through stock option if you work at a tech company. That's a fine way to start. But usually, the real wealth is created by starting your own companies or even by investing in an investment firm. They are buying equity. These are routes to wealth. It doesn't come through the hours. Find position of leverage. We live in an age of infinite leverage, and the economic rewards for genuine intellectual curiosity have never been higher. Following your genuine intellectual curiosity is a better foundation for a career than following whatever is making money right now. Knowledge, owning you know, or owning a small set of people knows is going to come out your passions and your hobbies. Oddly enough, if you have hobby around your intellectual curiosity, you are more likely to develop these passions. If it entertains you now, but will bore you someday, it's a distraction. Keep looking. I only really want to do things for their own sake. That is one definition of art. Whether it's business, exercise, romance, friendship, whatever, I think the meaning of life is to do things for their own sake. Ironically, when you do things for their own sake, you create your best work. Even if you are just trying to make money, you will actually be the most successful. The year I generated the most wealth for myself was actually the year I worked the least hard and cared the least about the future. I was mostly doing things for the sheer fun of it. I was basically telling people I'm retired, I'm not working. Then I had the time for whatever was my highest valued project in front of me. By doing things for their own sake, I did them at their best. The less you want something, the less you are thinking about it, the less you are obsessing over it, the more you are doing it in a natural way, the more you are going to do it for yourself. You are going to do it in a way you are good at. You are going to stick with it. The people around you will see the quality of your work is higher. Follow your intellectual curiosity more than whatever is hot right now. If your curiosity ever leads you to a place where society eventually wants to go, you get paid extremely well. You are more likely to have skills society doesn't yet know how to train other people to do. If someone can train other people how to do something, then they can replace you. If they can replace you, then they don't have to pay you a lot. You want you want to know how to do something other people don't know how to do at the time period when those skills are in demand. If they can train you to do it, then eventually they will train a computer to do it. You get rewarded by society for giving it what it wants and doesn't know how to get elsewhere. A lot of people think you can go to school and study for how to make money, but the reality is there's no skill called business. Think about what product or service society wants but doesn't yet know how to get. You want to become the person who delivers it and delivers it at a scale. That's really the challenge of how to make money. Now, the problem is becoming good at whatever it is. It moves around from generation to generation, but a lot of it happens to be in technology. You are waiting for your moment when someone emerges in the world. They need a skill set, and you are uniquely qualified. You build your brand in the meantime on Twitter, on YouTube, and by giving away free work, you made a name for yourself. And you take some risks in the process. When it's time to move on, the opportunity, you can do so with leverage, the maximum leverage possible. There are three broad kinds of leverage. One form of leverage is neighbor, other human, other humans working for you. It's the oldest form of leverage and actually not a great one in the modern world. I would argue this is the worst form of leverage that you could possibly use. Managing other people is incredibly messy. It requires tremendous leadership skills. You are one shot hop from a mutiny to or getting eaten or torn apart by the mob. Money is good as a form of leverage. It means every time you make a decision, you multiply it with money. Capital is a trickier form of leverage to use. It's more modern. It's the one that people have used to get fabulously wealthy in the last century. It's probably been the dominant form of leverage in the last century. You can see this by looking for the richest people, its backers, politicians in corrupt countries who print money. Essentially, people who move large amounts of money around. If you look at the top of very large companies outside of technology companies, in many, many large old companies, the CEO job is really a financial job. It scales very, very well. If you get good at managing capital, you can manage more and more capital much more easily than you can manage more and more people. The final form of leverage is brand new, the most dem- democratic form. It is products with no marginal cost of replication. This includes books, media, movies, and code. Code is probably the most powerful form of permissionless leverage. All you need is a computer. You don't need anyone's permission. Forget rich versus poor, white collar versus blue. It's now leveraged versus unleveraged. The most interesting and the most important form of leverage is the idea of products that have no marginal cost of replication. This is a new form of leverage. This was only invented in the last few hundred years. It started with the printing press. It accelerated with broadcast media, And now it's really blown up with the internet and with coding. Now you can multiply your efforts without involving other humans and without needing money from other humans. This book is a form of leverage. Long ago, I would have I wouldn't have to sit in a lecture hall and lecture each of you personally. I would have maybe reached a few hundred people, and that would have been that. This newest form of leverage is where all the new fortunes are made, all the new billionaires. For the last generation, fortunes were made by capital. The people who made fortunes were the Warren Buffetts of the world. But the new generation's fortunes are all made through code or media. Joe Rogan making 50 million to 100 million a year from his podcast. You are going to have PewDiePie, who I don't know how much money he's rolling in. But he's bigger than the news and of course. And there's Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs. Their wealth is all code-based leverage. Probably the most interesting thing to keep in mind about new form of leverage is they are permissionless. They don't require somebody else's permission for you to use them or succeed. For labor leverage, somebody has to decide to follow you. For capital leverage, somebody has to give you money to invest in or to turn into a product. Coding, writing books, recording podcasts, tweeting, YouTubing, this kind of thing are permissionless. You don't need anyone's permission to do them. And that's why they are very egalitarian. They are great equalizers of leverage. Every great software developer, for example, now has an army of robots working for him at nighttime while he or she sleeps after they've written the code and it's cracking away. You are never going to get rich renting out your time. Whenever you can in life, optimize for independence rather than pay. If you have independence and you are accountable on your output as opposed to your input, that's the dream. Humans involved in societies where there was no leverage. If I was chopping wood or carrying water for you, you knew 80 hours put in would be equal to about 80 hours of output. Now we are invented leverage through capital, cooperation, technology, productivity. All this means we live in an age of leverage. As a worker, you want to be as leveraged as possible so you have a huge impact without much time or physical effort. A leveraged worker can outproduce a non-leveraged worker by a factor of 1,000 or 10,000. With a leveraged worker, judgment is far more important than how much time they put in or how hard they work. Forget 10 times programmers, 1,000 programmers times programmers really exists. We just don't fully acknowledge it. For example, a good software engineer, just by writing the right little piece of code and creating the right little application, can literally create $500 million worth of for a company. But 10 engineers working 10 times as hard just because they choose the wrong model, they choose the wrong product, wrote it the wrong way, or put in the wrong barrel loop, have basically wasted their time. Input don't match output. especially for leveraged workers. Why you want enough is to be in control your time. You want to get into a leveraged job where you control your own time and you are tracked on the output. If you do something incredible to move the needle on the business, you have they have to pay you. Essentially, if you don't know how you did it because it's innate, you're innate to your obsession or your skill or your innate abilities, they are going to have to keep paying you to do it. If you have specific knowledge, you have accountability, and you have leverage, you they have to pay you what you are worth. If they pay you what you are worth, then you can get your time back. You can be hyper efficient. You are not doing meetings for meetings' sake. You are not trying to impress other people. You are not writing things down to make it look like you did work. All you care about is the actual work itself. When you do just the actual work itself, you will be far more productive, far more efficient. You will work when you feel like it, when you are high energy, and you won't be trying to struggle through when you are low energy. You will gain your time back. 40-hour work weeks are a relic of the industrial age. Knowledge workers function like athletes, train and sprint, then rest and reassess. Sales is an example, especially very high-end sales. If you are a real estate agent out there selling houses, it's not a great job necessarily. It's very crowded. But if you are top-tier real estate agent, you know how to market yourself and you know how to sell houses. It's possible you could sell 5 million mansions in 1/10 of the time, while somebody else is struggling to sell 100,000 apartments or condos. Real estate agent is a job with input and output disconnected. Building any product and selling any product fit, fit this description. And fundamentally, what else is there when you don't necessarily want to be in a support role like customer service? In customer service, unfortunately, input and output relate relatively close to each other. And the hours you put in matter. Tools and leverage create this disconnection between input and output. The higher the creativity component of a profession, the more likely it's to have disconnected input and output. If you are looking at professions where your input and your output are highly connected, it's going to be very hard to create wealth and make wealth for yourself in that process. If you want to be part of your great tech company, then you need to be able to sell or build. If you don't do either, learn. Learn to sell, learn to build. If you can do both, you will be unstoppable. These are two very broad categories. One is building the product. This is hard, and it's multivariate. It can include design, it can include development, it can include manufacturing, logistics, procurement, and it can even be designing and operating a service. It has many, many definitions. But in every industry, there is a definition of the builder. In our tech industry, it's the it's a CTO, it's a programmer, it's a software engineer or hardware engineer. But even in the laundry business, it could be the person who's building the laundry service, who is making the trains run on time, who's making sure all the clothes end up in the in the right place at the right time, and so on. The other side of it is sales. Again, selling has a very broad definition. Selling doesn't necessarily just mean selling to individual customers, but it can mean marketing, it can mean communicating, it can mean recruiting, it can mean raising money, it can mean inspiring people, it could mean doing PR. It's a broad umbrella category. Earn with your mind, not your money. Earn with your mind, not your time. Let's talk about more about real estate business. The worst kind of job is someone who's doing labor to repair a house. Maybe you get paid $10 or $20 an hour. You go to people's house, your boss demands you there at 8 a.m. and you repair your piece of the house. Here, you have zero leverage. You have some accountability, but not really. Not really, because your accountability is to your boss, not to the client. You don't have any real specific knowledge, since what you are doing is neighbor lots of people can do. You are not going to get paid a lot. You are getting paid minimum wage plus a little bit of your skill and your time. The next level up might be the general contractor working on the house for the owner. They may be getting paid 50,000 to do the whole project. Then they are paying the labor $15 an hour and they are keeping the difference. A general contractor is obviously a better place to be, but how do we measure it? How do we know it's better? Well, we know it's better because this person has some accountability. They are responsible for the outcome. They have to wait at night if things aren't working. Contractors have leverage to laborers working for them. They also have a little bit more specific knowledge. How to organize a team, make them show up on time, and how to do deals with city regulations. The next level up might be a real estate developer. A developer is someone who's going to buy a property, hire, hire a bunch of contractors, and transform it into something higher value. They probably have to take out a loan to buy a house or go to investor to raise money. They buy the old house, tear it down, rebuild it, and sell it. Instead of 5,000 like the general contractor, or $15 or an hour like the laborer, the developer might be able to make $1 million or $500,000 in profit when they sell the house for more than they bought it for, including the expenses of construction. But now notice what is required from the developer: a very high level of accountability. The developer takes on more risk, more accountability, has more leverage, and they need to have more specific knowledge. They need to understand fundraising, city regulations, where the real estate market is headed, and whether they should take the risk or not. It's more difficult. The next level up might be someone who's managing money in real estate fund. They have an enormous amount of capital leverage. They are dealing with lots and lots of developers, and they are buying huge amounts of housing inventory. One level beyond that might be somebody who says, actually, I want to bring the maximum leverage to bear in this market at maximum specific knowledge. That person would say, well, I understand real estate and I understand everything from basic housing construction to build properties and selling them to how real estate market move and thrive. And I also understand the technology businesses. I understand how to recruit developers, how to write code, and how to build a good product. And I understand how to raise money from a venture capitalist, how to return it, and how all of that works. Obviously, not a single person may know this. You may pull a team together to do it where each have different skill sets, but that combined entity would have specific knowledge in technology and in real estate. It would have massive accountability because that company's name would be very high risk, high rewarded effort attached to the whole thing, and people would devote their lives to it, de- devote their lives to it and take on significant risk. It would have leverage in code with not of developers. It would have capital with investors putting money in and the founders' own capital. It would have some of the highest quality labor you can find, which is high quality engineers, designers, and marketers who are working on the company. Then you may end up with a Julia, Redfin, or Zeno company, and then the upside could be potentially be in the billions of dollars or the thousand million of dollars. Each level has increasing leverage, increasing accountability, increasingly specific knowledge. You are adding money-based leverage on top of labor-based leverage and adding code-based leverage on top of money and labor allows you to actually create something bigger and bigger and get closer and closer to owning all the upside, not just being paid a salary. You started as a salaried employee, but you want to work your way up to try and get higher leverage, more accountability, and specific knowledge. The compilation of those over a long period of time with the magic of compound interest will make you wealthy. The one thing you have to avoid is the risk of ruin. Avoiding ruin means stay out of jail, so don't do anything illegal. It's never worth of it. It's never worth it to wear an orange jumpsuit. Stay out of total catastrophic loss. Avoiding ruin could also mean you stay out of things that could be physically dangerous or hurt your body. You have to watch your health. Stay out of things that could cause you to lose all your capital, all your savings. Don't gamble everything on one go. Instead, take rationally optimistic bets with big upsides. Get paid for your judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into, and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. I think every human should aspire should aspire Aspire. Aspire. Aspire to being knowledgeable about certain thing and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be master of our own time because we are just being tracked on output and not input. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrate demonstrably demonstrate demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are they are right 85% of the time instead of the 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because one 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small difference in judgment and capital really get amplified. Demonstrated judgment. Demonstrated. 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 Demonstrate. Demonstrated judgment. Credibility around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett wins here because he has massive, massive credibility. He's been highly accountable. He's been right over and over in the public domain. He's built a reputation for every high integrity, so you can trust him. People will though, though, throw infinite leverage behind him because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up or when he goes to sleep. They're like, Warren, just do your thing. Judgment, especially demonstrated judgment with high accountability and a clear track record, is critical. We waste our time with short-term thinking and busy work. Warren Buffett spent a year deciding and a day acting, not act last decades, just from being marginally better, like running a quarter mile, a fraction of second faster. Some people get paid a lot more, others of magnitude more. Leverage mm, magnifies magnifies those differences even more. Being at the extreme in your art is very important in the age of leverage. Okay, get paid for your judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer in employer employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get paid you get into and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want I want a robot. I want I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer will will give you from your employer will give what sort of deals. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, career, or fields you get into and what sort of deals you are waiting to take from your employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much more about time management. I would have I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want I want a robot, capital, or a computer to do the work that I want to be paid for my judgment. I think every human should aspire to being knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as we have as much as leverage is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you, what you have. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output and not input. I think every human should aspire to being knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output, not not input. I think every human should aspire to being knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's to robots or computers or what have you, then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output, not input, not input. I think every human should aspire to be knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much knowledge, as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output and not input, output and not input. I think every human should aspire to being knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have we have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output, not not input, not input. I think every human I think every human should aspire to be knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output and not input. Im- imagine, 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 imagine someone comes along who imagine someone comes along who demonstrably sorry, demonstrably demonstrably imagine someone comes along who demonstrably some who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right. They are right 80, 85% of the time instead of 70%, 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 10 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small difference in judgment and capital really get amplified. Imagine someone comes along with demonstrably. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 10, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their average. Small differences in judgment and capital capability really get amplified. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because they are leverage. Because of their leverage. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Because of their leverage, small differences in judgment and capability really get amplified. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. Demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small differences in judgment and capability is really get amplified. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small difference in judgment and capability really get amplified, get amplified, get amplified, get amplified, get amplified. Demonstrated judgment, credibility around the judgment. Demonstrably, demonstrably, demonstrated, demonstrated, demonstrably, demonstrably, demonstrably. Demonstrated. Demonstrably demonstrated. Demonstrated judgment, credibility around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett went here because he has massive credibility, has been highly accountable, has been right over and over in the public domain, has built a reputation for every high integrity, so you can trust him. People will so inflate leverage behind him because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up or when he goes to sleep. They are like, Warren, just do your thing. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small difference in judgment and capability really get amplified. Demonstrated judgment, credibility around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett was here because he has massive credibility. He's been highly accountable. He's been right over and over in public domain. He's built a reputation for every high integrity, so you can trust him. People will throw infinite leverage behind him because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up or when he goes to sleep. They're like, Warren, just do your thing. When he wakes up, when he goes to sleep, when he wakes up, when he goes to sleep. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 15 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes because 10% better judgment steering a 100 million ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small differences in judgment and capability really get amplified. Demonstrated judgment, credibility around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett was here because he has massive credibility. He's been highly accountable. He's been right over and over in the public domain. He's built a reputation for every high integrity, so you can trust him. People will throw infinite leverage behind him because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up and when he goes to sleep. They're like, Warren, just do your thing. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a band, a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small differences in judgment and capability really get amplified. Demonstrated judgment in credibility around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett wins here because he has massive credibility. He's been highly accountable. He's been right over and over in the public domain. He's built a reputation for every high integrity, so you can trust him. People will throw infinite leverage behind him because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up or when he goes to sleep. They are like, Warren, just do your thing. Judgment, especially demonstrated judgment with high accountability and a clear track record, is critical. We waste our time with short-term thinking and busy work. Warren Buffett spent a year deciding and a day acting. That act lasts a decade. Just from being marginally better, like running a quarter mile a fraction of second faster. Some people get paid a lot more, or orders of magnitude more. Leverage magnifies those differences even more. Being at the extreme in your art is very important in the age of leverage. Judgment, especially demonstrates judgment with high accountability and a clear track record, 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 record is critical. We waste our time with short-term thinking and busy worker. Warren Buffett spent a year deciding and a day acting. That act lasts decades, just from being marginal better, like running a quarter mile, a fraction of a fraction of second faster. Some people get paid a lot more, others in magnitude more. Leverage magnifies the difference even more. Being at the extreme in your art and is very important in the age of leverage. Judgment, especially, demonstrates judgment with high accountability and a clear track record is critical. We waste our time with short-term thinking and busy work. Warren Buffett spent a year deciding and a day acting. That act lasts decades, just from being marginally better, like running a quarter mile a fraction of a second faster. Some people get paid a lot more, others of magnitude more. Leverage magnifies those differences even more. Being at the extreme in your art is very important in the age of leverage. Judgment, 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 judgment. Do it again, read it again. Get paid for your judgment. Choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into and what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for my work. I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. I think every human should aspire to being knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is it possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output, not input. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small differences in judgment and the capability really get amplified. Demonstrated judgment capability around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett wins here because he has massive credibility. He's been highly accountable. He's been right over and over in the public domain. He's built a reputation for every high integrity. So you can trust him. People will throw infinite leverage behind him because because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up or when he goes to sleep. They are like Warren, just do your thing. Judgment, especially demonstrated judgment, with high accountability and a clear track record, is critical. We waste our time with short-term thinking and busy work. Warren Buffett spent a year deciding and a day acting. That act last decades. Just from being marginally better, like running a quarter mile a fraction of a second faster. Some people get paid a lot more, orders of magnitude more. Leverage magnifies those differences even more. Being at extreme, being at the extreme, being at the extreme in your art is very important in the age of leverage. Being at the extreme in your art, being at the extreme, being at the extreme in your art is very important in the age of leverage. Get paid for your judgment, choosing what kind of jobs, careers, or field you get into and then what sort of deals you are willing to take from your employer will give you much more free work. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for adding work. I want a robot, capital, a computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. I think every human should aspire aspire for being knowledgeable but about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on output and not input. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrable, demonstrable, demonstrate, demonst- demonstrably, demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They are right 85% of the time instead of 70%. You will pay them 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment steering a 100 billion ship is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small difference in judgment and capability really get amplified. Demonstrated judgment, credibility around the judgment is so critical. Warren Buffett went here because he has massive credibility. He's being highly accountable. He's being right over and over in public domain. He's built a reputation for every high integrity, so you can trust him. People will throw infinite leverage behind him because of his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. Nobody asks him when he wakes up or when he goes to sleep. They're like Warren, just do your thing. Judgment especially demonstrates judgment with high accountability and a clear track record is critical. We waste our time with short-term thinking and busy work. Warren Buffett spent a year deciding and a day acting. Just act last decade, just from being marginally better, like running a quarter mile of a fraction of a second faster. Some people get paid a lot more, orders of magnitude more. Leverage magnifies those differences even more. Being at an extreme, being at a, being and the extreme in your art is very important in the age of leverage. Prioritize and focus. I've encountered plenty of bad luck along the way. The first little fortune I made, I instantly lost in the stock market. The second little fortune I made, or should have made, I basically got cheated out by my business partners. It's only the third time around that has been a charm. Even then, it has been a slow and steady struggle. I haven't made money in my life in one giant payout. It has always been a whole bunch of small things piling up. It's more about consistently creating wealth by creating businesses, creating opportunities, and creating investments. It has been a giant one-off thing. My personal wealth has not been generated by one big year. It just stacks up a little bit, a few chips at a time, more options, more businesses, more investments, more things I can do. Thanks to the internet, opportunities are massively abundant. In fact, I have too many ways to make money. I don't have enough time. I literally have more opportunities pouring out of my ears, and I keep running out of time. There are so many ways to create wealth, to create products, to create businesses, and to get paid by society as a byproduct. I just can't handle them all. Value your time and the hourly rate and ruthlessly spend to save time at that rate. You will never be worth more than you think you are worth. No one is going to value you more than you value yourself. You just have to set a very high personal hourly rate and you have to stick to it. Even when I was young, I just decided I was worth a lot more than the market thought I was worth. And I started treating myself that way. Always factor your time into every decision. How much time does it take? It's going to take you an hour to get across town to get something. If you value yourself at $100 an hour, that's basically throwing $100 out of your pocket. Are you going to do that? Fast forward to your wealthy self and pick some intermediate hourly rate. For me, believe it or not, back when you could have hired me, which which now obviously you can't, but back when you could have hired me, that was true a decade ago or even 2 decades ago, but I had earning real money. Before I had real money, my hourly rate I used to say to myself over and over is 5,000 an hour. Today, when I look back, really it was about 1,000 an hour. Of course, I still end up doing stupid things like arguing with the electrician or returning the broken speaker, but I shouldn't have. I did a lot less than any of my friends would. I would make a theatrical show out of throwing something in a pile, trash pile, or giving it to Salvation Army, rather than trying to return it or handing something to people rather than trying to fix it. I would argue with my girlfriend, and even today it's my wife. I don't do that. That's not a problem that I solve. I still argue that with my mother when she had me a little to do. I just don't do that. I would rather hire you an assistant. This was true even when I don't have that money. Another way of thinking about something is if you can't outsource something or not do something for less than your hourly rate, outsource it or don't do it. If you can hire someone to do it for less than your hourly rate, hire them. That even includes things like cooking. You may want to eat your healthy home cooked meals, but if you can outsource it, do that instead. Set a very high hourly aspirational rate for yourself and stick to it. It should seem and feel absurdly high. If it doesn't, it's not high enough. Whatever you picked, my advice to you would be to raise it. Like I said for myself, even before I had money. For the longest time, I used 5,000 an hour, and if you extrapolate that out into what it looks like as an annual salary, it's multiple millions of dollars per year. Ironically, I actually think I've beaten it. I'm not the hardest working person. I'm actually a lazy person. I work through bursts of energy where I'm really motivated with something. If I actually look at how much I've earned per actual hour that I've put in, it's probably quite a bit higher than that. Can you expand your statement? If you secretly despise wealth, it will elude you. If you get into a relative mindset, you're always going to hate people who do better than you. You're always going to be jealous or envious of them. You will sense those feelings when you try and do business with them. When you try and do business with somebody, if you have any bad thoughts or any judgment about them, they will feel it. Humans are wired to feel what the other person deep down inside feels. You have to get out of a relative mindset, literally. Being anti-wealthy will prevent you from becoming wealthy because you will not have the right mindset for it. You won't have the right spirit, and you won't be dealing with people on the right level. Be optimistic, be positive. It's important. Optimists actually do better in the long run. The business world has many people playing zero-sum games and few playing positive-sum games, searching for each other for the crowd. There are fundamentally two huge games in life that people play. One is the money game, because money is going to solve all your problems. Because it's going to solve all your money problems. People realize that, so they want to make money. But at the same time, many of them deep down believe they can't make money. They don't want any wealth creation to happen. So they attack the whole enterprise by saying, well, making money is evil. They shouldn't do it. But they're actually playing the other games, which is the standards game. They are trying to be high standards in the eyes of other people's watching by saying, well, I don't need money. I don't want money. Status is your ranking in the social hierarchy. Wealth creation is an evolutionary recent part of some game. Status is the old zero-sum game. Those attacking wealth creation are often just seeking status. Status is the zero-sum game. It's a very old game. We've been playing it since monkey tribes. It's hierarchical. Who's number one? Who's number two? Who's number three? And for number three to move to number two had to move out of that snot. So standards is a zero-sum game. Politics is an example of a standards game. Even sports are an example of a standards game. To be the winner, there must be a loser. I don't fundamentally love standards games. They play an important role in our society. So we can figure out who's in charge, but fundamentally you play them because you are necessary evil. The problem is to win and understand this game, you have to put somebody else down. That's why you should avoid standard games in your life. They make you into a angry, competitive person. You are always fighting to put other people down, to put yourself and the people you like up. Standard games are always going to exist. There are no way around it, but realize they are trying to increase their own status at your expense. They are playing a different game. It's a worse game. It's a zero-sum game instead of positive-sum game. Play stupid games with stupid prize. What is the most important thing to do for younger people starting out? Spending more time making the big decisions. There are basically three really big decisions that you make in your early life: where you live, who you are with, and what you do. We spend very little time deciding which relationships to get into. We spend so much time in a job, but we spend so little time deciding which job to get into. Choosing what city to live in can almost completely determine the trajectory of your life, but we spend a little time trying to figure out what city to live in. Advice to a young engineer considering moving to San Francisco: do you want to leave your friends behind, or be the one left behind? If you if you are going to live in a city for 10 years, if you are going to be in a job for 5 years, if you are in a relationship for a decade, you should be spending 1 or 2 years deciding these things. There are highly dominating decisions. Those three decisions really matter. You have to say no to everything and free up your time so you can solve the important problems. Those three are probably the three biggest ones. What are 1 or 2 steps you'd take to surround yourself with successful people? Figure out what you are good at and starting helping help helping other people with it. Give it away, pay it forward. Karma works because people are consistent. On a long enough time scale, you will attract what you project, but don't measure. Your patience will run out if you can't. An old boss once warned, you'll never be rich since you are obviously smart, and someone will always offer you a job that's just good enough. How did you decide to start your first company? I was working at the tech company called Home Network, and I told everybody around me, my boss, co-workers, my friends in Silicon Valley, all of these other people are starting company. It looks like they can do it. They can do it. I'm going to start a company. I'm just here in temporarily. I'm an entrepreneur. I did actually mean to trick myself into it. It wasn't a deliberate, calculated thing. Calculated thing. I was deliberate. I was just venting talking out or not, being overly honest, but I didn't actually start a company. This was in 1996. It was a much scarce, scarier, more difficult proposition to start a company then. Sure enough, everyone started saying, "What are you still doing here? I thought you were leaving to start a company, and wow, you're still here." I was literally embarrassed into starting my own company. Yes, I know some people aren't necessarily ready to be entrepreneur, but long term, where where did we come up with this idea? This correct logical thing to do is for everybody to work for somebody else. It's a very hierarchical model. Find and work that feels like play. Humans involve sorry,